Well, good evening, everybody. This is Dr. Stephen Walker, broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm doing my twice a week mental health live stream tonight. Been a busy day, but we're going to talk tonight about how to manage your conditioning. You know, this is an ongoing issue that people have. We seem to get lost in this idea that we are how we were raised. And I see this over and over every day with people. Those of you who don't know, who are tuning in for the first time, I am a licensed mental health provider, licensed psychologist. I've been in the field over coming up on 25 years, and I do these Tuesday and Thursday night to try to help people normalize conversations about mental health and mental illness. And this is why we're here tonight, okay? We're here to talk about what's on our mind. We're here to talk about whatever is bothering us. We're here to engage with our thoughts and emotions because, quite frankly, that's what we need to do more of in our culture and our society. We don't talk about enough. So just real quick, mention again, helpahuman.org. It's a mental health fund I've set up to help people who can't afford treatment, can't afford their copays. You can donate right into it. All the proceeds go to Help a Human, help people who can't afford treatment, okay? Want to remind everybody, if you look in the top right-hand corner of your screen, I'll post a number. If anybody wants to call in live and engage with me and talk about whatever's on their mind, the lines are open. It's not necessary. You can also post a chat. But I started this last Tuesday, and we had a really interesting conversation with a gentleman who's struggling with a person in their family, a child who is in some gender identity issues and is transitioning or wants a transition. We had a lively discussion with him. So again, if you want to call, this is my office number, which goes directly to my cell phone, and the phone is right here waiting for a phone call. So feel free to call. Want to remind everyone real quick about my sponsor, BetterHelp.com. You can get a discounted rate by typing in or clicking on this link that I'm about to post. So if you've ever thought about getting some counseling, this is a wonderful opportunity, because not only do you get a discounted rate, but you actually talk to people who are licensed mental health practitioners, not people who believe that they know what's best for you. You're talking to licensed people trained in the field of mental health, willing to engage with you, obviously at a price, because that's the world we live in. But you type in betterhelp.com/Dr. Walker and you will get a discounted rate if you've ever thought about getting some help. So let's talk a little bit about our topic tonight, which is how to manage your conditioning, okay? Let's talk about why that's important. First off, most of us, myself included, to a large degree, until I did a lot of work on myself in my late 20s, early 30s, and then it's continuing into now today. We're lost in our conditioning, people. We're lost in our belief systems. We're lost in what we learned growing up. And this is one of the things I see over and over and over. I hear people saying to me when they're on the phone, "Hey, Penny, how are you? Good evening to you too." I hear people saying this to me all the time. And you've heard people say this: I'm the type of person. I'm the type of person. I'm the type of person who, I'm the type of person that, I'm the type of person. I'm sorry, people, you are not the type of person of anything until you start finding out who you were taught to be. This is the delusion, my fellow humans on this live stream and catching this after I post it. We're lost in our conditioning. We're lost in what we were taught growing up. We're lost in our conditioned self-identity. And I see this over and over and over with people who are willing to do the work on themselves. They struggle with this belief system that they are who they were taught to be. And that's what conditioning is. Conditioning, like I said in my live stream before about imposter syndrome, sorry, people have a pop psychology view of what imposter syndrome is. Again, go back onto my YouTube channel, and you can download. You can listen to the live stream I did on imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is taught to us as I have thoughts, I have fears, I have insecurities, I have self-doubt. And that is, hey Sam, how are you? I always think you're saying hi, hello, evil. We all can be a little evil. But imposter syndrome, people believe, is I have insecurities, I have self-doubts, I have things about myself I'm not comfortable with, and I don't share them with people. Hey Candace, how are you? Good to see you back. I have parts of me that I hide from people, and that makes me believe that that's who I am, because that's the insecurity and fear that we keep from everyone else. But that's not who we are. That's not who we are. That's who we were taught to be. The conditioning, people, is the real imposter. And how do we work on our conditioning? You get into a situation where you can talk out a lot of what's going on. Hey, Sigrid, how are you? Hello, I'm not a type person. I'm different every day. One day happy, life next day sad and insecure. I hear you, Sigrid. I hear you. You know, there's a great song, old song. I'll date myself. I'm a million different people from one day to the next. You know, can anyone name the artist there? But yeah, absolutely. But see, this is what people don't understand. And this is why I'm doing these live streams, to try to engage with people. Remember, see, what is it? See this right here? That is a phone number that you can dial to get directly to me if you want to engage with something that's on your mind. Okay, you don't have to give your name, but the whole idea is we need to engage with what we're thinking and feeling in order to talk it out. We don't have to be ashamed that we all have issues. We don't have to be ashamed that we have trauma from our past. We don't. Okay, we don't need to be ashamed of that. Why? Because everyone has issues. Every single person looking at this live stream, every single person watching this after I post it has issues. Okay. Now I don't know what that, I have to zoom in. Somebody's saying they can't read the number. Well, here's the number. If anybody wants to call in, where's my thingamabob? So like I said, this is you can Google my name, Dr. Stephen Walker. You'll find that this number is my office number. It goes straight to my cell phone. So why is working on our conditioning important? Well, let's look at the world around us. Okay. Let's look at, and remember, okay, this is a mental health live stream where I talk about a topic just to get the ball rolling. And then I expect people to engage with me. Okay. This is not about me trying to just get people to like and share. Now, there's a part of that because I'm trying to normalize conversations about mental health. But you've got to ask me a question or make a comment. You can ask me about anything on your mind. We can engage about anything going on. Like I said, last week, we had a gentleman talk about his daughter transitioning. Be wonderful to hear, Eddie, if you're still on. You can let her give us an update on what's going on with you. So what I would encourage you guys to think about is this. What did I learn as a kid that I'm still playing out? What did I learn? What kind of trauma did I go through that taught me to hate myself? What kind of issues from my past that I haven't dealt with that are still affecting my relationships? These types of questions will literally transform the planet. That's good. Thoughts on the Mercury retrograde? I've been struggling with my emotions for a few weeks. You know, Trish, great question. I'm not what do you call it? I'm not an astrologist, but I do believe that there's some interesting things about personality types based on astrology. You know, there's some interesting things, but no, I don't know. But if you've been struggling with your emotions for a few weeks, Trish, maybe there's something in there that needs to be worked on. Maybe there's something going on that Trish learned as a kid that she hasn't quite worked through that are causing her to struggle with her emotions now. How does Trish deal with struggling with her emotions? How does she feel about having to struggle with her emotions? Is she okay with struggling with her emotions? What part of her emotions are still affecting her? Sam's asking, how can I help a friend stop self-mutilating? Sam, if you have a friend that's self-mutilating, give them this link, sister, because there's nothing you can do. That's like asking an oncologist, what can I do to help somebody who has breast cancer? You can refer them to somebody who's licensed in the field that can help them, because self-mutilation is a deep-rooted issue that you got to get to the substrata of what is going on with the person and why are they hurting themselves. There's a multitude of reasons. Some people, I don't know, but when you say mutilate, I mean, that's pretty graphic. I don't know if they're actually, self-mutilating. Give them this link, copy that link, betterhelp.com/Dr. Walker. They can get a discount and work through it. But the best thing or the best advice I could give you for trying to help somebody who is self-mutilating is encouraging them. You have 100 times. I hear you. Well, that is something that you're going to have to say to yourself, Sam. I tried to help. I did what I can, but that is out of my pay grade. That is out of something that I feel comfortable doing. You can try to just listen to them, be empathetic, but continue to encourage them, give them hope, tell them, the person, that you can get some relief. You can work on this. People come to me all the time and I hear this over and over. Oh, I'm broken for life. I'm never gonna get any better. And that is not true, people. It's not. Trisha's saying, I'm used to struggling with my emotions. I feel like I've lived in chaos my entire life. Well, Trish, I don't know how old you are, but you don't have to. You don't have to live in chaos your whole life. There's nothing that nobody is saying that you have to. I would start going through some of those emotions. I would start going through some of those memories that caused you to be in chaos your whole life. Why? What did you grow up with? I'm guessing Trish had a pretty chaotic childhood. Preach, right, Candace? I hear you. Well, no one's calling, no one's engaged, no one's calling and talking about what's on their mind. So I gotta talk. But see, the thing about Sam saying yes, true, hides it behind picking at things. Yeah. So, and we do, and a lot of times that people I've worked with cutters. I've worked with people who, that some people want to feel alive by that. They want, excuse me, want to feel as though they're still can feel. So they cut, they inflict pain on themselves. Some people are doing it because they hate themselves. Some people are doing it because there's issues with abuse in the past. And these are issues that you need a licensed, trained person to work with. And again, I know I sound sometimes like I'm a little judgmental, but I am judgmental because I do believe there's a lot of misinformation out there, and there are a lot of people who are giving people advice, having seminars, and have no training. They figure, I know what's right for you, and I'm going to do a one-size-fits-all, and I'm not going to deal with your negative emotions, or I'm going to pretend that I know how to handle those. And then people are led down the wrong road. And then the next thing you know, they're in a continual stage of pain and they're feeling that there's no hope. Try to work things out with somebody who knows how to help you work them in. The secret is inward. The secret is within us. The answers are within, but we need some time to go through that. Okay. So we have a call. Let's see here. Hi, Dr. Walker. May I help you?
Yeah, I was calling to speak to Dr. Walker.
Yes, we have some feedback. Can you turn down your radio, please? Can you turn down your radio?
Hi, Dr. Walker. May I help you?
No, I'm being, that's what they used to say in old call-in shows when they would hear a radio in the background. Please turn down your radio. So unless you give me your name, I won't say your name. So what's on your mind tonight?
Well, this is Candace. You can say my name.
Hi, Candace. How are you? How are things going
Good.
with
How are
you?
you? Good, good.
What did you
I
want
was
to talk
calling
about tonight?
to talk about the conditioning and how we've worked through my issues with the conditioning and how it can still stay with you after a very long time.
Sure, sure. Those of you who don't know, Candace has been on the show before. She's talked about some sexual abuse from her past, but specifically, what do you see? Thank you for calling in, by the way. What do you see as part of what conditioning is still affecting you?
All of the negative things that I was told from my abuser. You know the old saying, you remember all the bad things, you never remember the good things. Not that there were any good things, but all of those bad things stuck with me for years, even after the abuse was over, because I believed him. I believed I deserved what happened to me, and I believed that everything was my fault. So therefore, all of the bad conditioning stuck with me and carried on into my adult post-abuse life. And it wasn't until recently, working with you on a regular basis, that I made the connection that when I'm having really bad days, really down days, that I still revert back to the conditioning of blaming myself, of blaming something that I did or didn't do, or, somehow or another, it's my fault.
Sure.
And that's just the conditioning from the abuse. And it carries with you for a very long time if you don't actively undo it. If you don't actively try to, like you said the other day, balance it out or undo it.
Sure, sure. And that's the key, right, Candace, is identifying the conditioning, identifying how I was taught to feel not only about the world around me, but about myself. So when you begin to identify the imposter, which is the conditioning, then you can start dealing with it from kind of that inside out perspective. So tell us a little bit, like, when the conditioning hits you and you start thinking that everything is your fault, how do you manage that?
Well, I kind of let it have its moment for a minute. I let the thoughts or the conditioning, the bad thoughts, kind of have their minute and, play out to the end, instead of me trying to fight and, I'm losing my words.
It's okay.
I let them have their minute in the sunshine for a minute. And then once it's done, I survived those thoughts. So that's one thing I tell myself. And then I basically deconstruct the thoughts that I had there's no way I could have controlled me getting behind the driver that is causing everybody to be late. Somehow or another, that was my fault. There's no way I could have, fixed a leak in the house because I didn't know it was there. So now, my entire house is not broken. It's just something that needs to be fixed. I go back and undo the bad thoughts with a logical brain to apply to it, and then just try to move forward with, if there is an actual problem or something that needs to be done or solved, try to move forward with a plan in place. Or just, if it's just me having a pity party for a little while, let it happen for a second and then go on. It's not bad that they happen. I just have to recognize that they are happening and where they come from.
Right, exactly. And when you say pity party, you mean you're not pitying yourself, but you're saying you're working on how you relate to yourself when you're hurting, right? Because how did you learn to relate to yourself when you were hurting?
Before the the work.
Mm-hmm.
I learned to relate to myself by saying, this is nothing new. Of course, this is going to happen to you. You've done everything else bad in your life. Why should this be any different? You caused everything bad before. Everything was my fault. So now going forward, everything is always going to be my fault because I'm just a sucky person.
Mm.
I'm just a bad person. And it took a long time for me to undo all of that. It took a long time to get past that and to realize that the person that was saying those things to me was actually the sucky person. He was actually the problem. He was actually the one that was the bad person. He was actually the one causing everything.
And abusers are good at that. Abusers are good at making the abuse victim feel that it's them, that they actually wanted the abuse, that they caused the abuse. That's what the narcissism training, or not training, but that's what narcissists learn, is how to make the victim feel like they're the crazy one, that somehow they brought the abuse upon themselves, and then the victim treats themselves that way for the rest of their life. And that's the kind of stuff that needs to be worked on. So talk a little bit about how your relationship with yourself has improved. And again, this isn't an infomercial for Dr. Stephen Walker. Trust me, this is an infomercial.
No,
this is an infomercial, but I'll be upfront. This is an infomercial for working on our shit. So people need to work on this painful part of themselves. And this is definitely an infomercial for that, because we would have a completely different world if people were working on these issues within them. But go ahead. Tell us a little bit about how your relationship with yourself has improved.
Well, now that I recognize where that conditioning started and why it was started, it's easier to break it down. It's easier to recognize it for what it is, and it's easier for me to move past it. I'm not saying I don't have my days where I do feel
it ain't so easy to move past, right? Or it ain't so easy to balance it out or integrate it in. Sure.
Yeah, there are spirals, and I do feel like Debbie Downer, like I have the wah, wah, behind me the whole time. But it's easier for me to move on and to continue to maintain myself. And it's easier for me to recognize that I am moving, I am winning, I am progressing. And it's easier for me to recognize that I'm the one doing the work, and that I should be, and I am, and I can be proud of myself for doing this work, because it's not easy, and I still have work to do. But if I've come this far, I can definitely go farther. And I know that because of myself. I mean, I've had your direction, of course, your guidance, but like you told me time and time again when I try to put it back on you, that I'm the one doing the work.
The healing is in you, sister. The healing is in you.
Yeah, you give me the tools, but I have to make the connection. I have to make I have to turn the light bulbs on.
Exactly.
Basically.
Exactly. And like Candace said, those of you who don't know Candace's story, and we're not going to go into all the details, but Candace had some pretty extensive sexual trauma growing up when she was in her mid-teens. And the extent of the trauma and the extent of the brainwashing and the extent of the gaslighting was pretty significant. And by full disclosure, I wasn't the first person that worked with her. So, a lot of this work is like links in a chain. So anybody out there watching this who's thinking, oh, my issues are too significant, or my trauma is too severe, on the scale of trauma, being, people don't know that, but trauma, there are degrees of trauma. So, I like to scale it out from 0 to 10. So on the extreme side of trauma, Candace's trauma was up into the 7, 8, 9 range. The only thing that was not pushing it into the real upper level was there wasn't a lot of physical abuse. There wasn't a lot of beating and that. So, but anybody out there listening to Candace needs to understand that your emotional wounds can heal. It takes work. If you continue to believe that you're broken, you're just a hot mess, you're going to always stay this way, there's no hope, that belief system alone will keep you stuck. What are your thoughts about that?
You reminded me of my first visit with you and with a previous therapist before you that I've spoken with. I walked in and sat down and basically said, look, this is what happened. I know I'm broke. I know there's nothing you can do, but I got to talk to somebody. So please just listen. I don't expect much from this, but I got to do something. And lo and behold, I stuck it out. He stuck it out, and it's worked out very well for me. But just to give you perspective, like he was saying, and this is just my story, I don't want you to think that this is, an average or whatever, because everybody's different. But, this did happen to me in my teenage years. And I was not ready to even speak about it until I was in my 30s. And I will be 49 in August. And I am still doing work, still working on it, which is fine. It took me a long time to come to terms with that, to be okay with that, because I thought that it was like you're going to turn a corner one day and boom, you're fixed.
Sure.
It's all rainbows and unicorns after that. And there's a lot of corners that have to be turned, and there are no rainbows or unicorns. There's a lot of sunshine, but it's not magic, and I used to think that I was broken forever and I could never be fixed, and I had even accepted that as my life. And so I was shocked to come to realization through the work when I was actually beginning to feel better. It was shocking to me because I didn't expect it and didn't think it was possible.
Sure. So and I appreciate you sharing that, because that hopefully somebody, logging on now or catching it on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter will get some inspiration from that. So let's talk real briefly about, so the Tonight Show is about managing your conditioning. What do you see as like one of the main things you are conditioned to believe about not only yourself or the world around you, or anything that like can tie in the idea that what we're taught about ourselves is a lie?
I was conditioned. I mean, for my story, if you want me to get specific, or
well, just as of now, like you said, you're in your 40s. Now that you look back on the early 30s and 20s, what were you believing about yourself? What's one of the main things you were believing about yourself that you now have seen as complete brainwashing?
Oh, that the abuse that happened to me wouldn't have happened to a good person. If I had been a better person, it wouldn't have happened. Or if I'd been a stronger person, it wouldn't have happened. Or if I had been smarter, that was one of his things. I was too stupid to know how to do anything without him. Whether it was tying my shoes or, even just day-to-day things. Like, I was too stupid to do anything. And I actually took that belief with me because the abuse was happening to me. So he obviously was correct about that. And I said correct with air quotes because I know you can't. I keep thinking you could see me. But
yeah, we could have done video.
Yeah.
But what do the quotes signify? Like, what is that?
He was never correct about, and I mean, excuse my language, but a fucking thing he said. I mean,
Exactly.
Nothing that came out of his mouth other than his name was correct. And I know that now. I mean, he used the fact that he was an adult in my life, and I was taught that you respect your adults and that they know everything. And he used that against me. And then he conditioned me by using that against me to make me think that I was stupid, that I would never amount to anything. Everything that was happening to me was my fault somehow or another because I couldn't do anything right. And I just wasn't going to be, I was just a bad person all the way around. And I was lucky enough to have him put up with me. He also told me that several times. I should consider myself lucky to have him put up with me.
Which of course translated.
I took with me.
Exactly, which of course translated into your relationships further downstream, where you felt, whatever man came into your world, you were lucky that they put up with you.
On, yeah, yeah, just stage 5 clinger, and it was just, yeah. My next relationship after leaving was just as abusive, but in a more mental way. So yeah, he just, whether he knew it or not, and I didn't recognize it for a very long time either, but the abuse was just carried on just by a different person. And it's because I thought I deserved it. So that's how the conditioning finally carried on. And then when I met my husband, it was the complete opposite, thank the Lord, of every man I've known in my entire life, which means he's a awesome man, great man. I couldn't handle the fact that he was normal and treated me well, and I almost left him just because I was tired of waiting for the real guy to show up. I couldn't handle the wait, and I almost ruined that relationship because I just kept waiting for him to start yelling at me, or for,
because you deserved it, right? That's what you believed. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just things like that. And luckily, by the grace of God, because I couldn't think of a reason to tell him over the phone, I did not break up with him, and he later became my husband, and in January, we're celebrating 24 years of marriage.
Wow, that's beautiful. So, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Candace, I appreciate you calling in and sharing your story. I hope that people will take great inspiration from that. And we were talking in our last session about some plans you had to continue doing the work and potentially starting to branch out into helping other people who have been victims of sexual abuse.
Yes, I'm actively looking into that, and
Great.
I had thought of actually getting with people at my work, because we've started a women's group to help us kind of facilitate and support each other. So I thought maybe through that I might could give back in some form or fashion with them.
Great.
But I definitely want to go to the crisis center here in Tampa and check in with them. So yeah.
Great. And there's some people who have transcended or healed a lot of their mental illness. They talk about going from patient to provider, and those are great models. But again, remember, if you're out there trying to be a provider without first being a patient, you need to do some work on that, because there's a lot of things that happen in this field when you're working with other victims where you can be triggered, where you can be affected by the stories you're hearing. And if you don't have the work done to be able to hold yourself through that, you can actually re-traumatize people. So it's great that you're thinking about doing that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I want to get more information on it and speak with people in depth and let them know that, of course, I'm not or certified or anything like that. but I can relate in ways that other people can't.
Great.
And I just want to be
Absolutely.
basically just a voice or something along those lines.
Beautiful.
So,
well, thank you for calling in, Candace. I really appreciate the support, and I'm sure people out there listening to your story will get some inspiration from the fact that if Candace, who is on the upper levels of abuse, can find some healing, can find some relief, can find an ability to find hope in that, can go from post-traumatic stress along the continuum to post-traumatic growth. I hope that other people listening to that will be inspired by that. So thank you for calling in. We really appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
Actually, before you go, I wasn't looking at the comments. I didn't see if anybody had any questions. Right, Sam saying you had made me abuse you. You're doing great, Candace. Candace is your survivor. Okay, great. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Candace.
Thank you guys all for saying that.
Yes, and thank you for calling in, and we'll get you on again and talk a little bit more about some other things in the future. So thanks again for calling.
Okay, sure. No problem.
Okay, have a good night. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Well, there you go, people. That's a real life story of somebody who has dealt with their pain and continues to deal with their pain. And, you know, Candace, like I said before, Candace's level of abuse was substantial and ongoing and had multiple different layers with other family members being facilitators of certain things that didn't need to happen. So she's working through that. And of course, like she said before, it's not like, oh, I'm healed and everything's fine, but it's an ongoing process of healing. She has her moments. She has her times when she feels weak, insecure, hurt, but she has tools to manage that. And she is ongoing working on that. So I hope that was inspiring to people who believe these wounds will never heal. I know it's a great line from a song, but it's not true. We are capable of working on, like our physical wounds, we are capable of healing our emotional wounds, but it does take work. Okay. So I want to thank everybody for logging on tonight. I'm going to try to get on again Thursday night. I was by the skin of my, I almost didn't get on tonight because it's just, when you're on the front lines of the mental health, I don't want to say war because I don't look at it that way, but when you're on the front lines of doing this, 5 days a week from 9 till 8, 9 o'clock at night, and then texting people and charting and doing notes, and then you got a wife and a 5-year-old, it can be a little difficult to get on every Tuesday and Thursday, but I'm gonna do my best to get on. I want to try to get guests back to see if that, I like that and I didn't like that. I think guests are good, but a lot of times, I don't know. It's just, I don't know about the flow of the show on that, but I'm going to try to get some guests on, see how that goes. But again, please remember, if you're on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, like my page, please subscribe. So put your notification so you know when we go live. If you ever want to email me a topic, feel free. I've incorporated people's suggestions on grief, on other things. But the last thing I'll leave you guys with is this, okay? Do not buy into the idea that people can't change and people can't heal, okay? Remember, excuse me, replace the word learn with change. Now say to yourself, people don't learn. Do some people not learn? Sure. Some people don't learn. They need to learn the hard way. But of course, people can learn. People can change and people can heal. Do not give up on that. I know the mental health field is unfortunately had its share of I'll just say interesting providers, but you're not going to stop going to a restaurant because you got a bad meal, people. Okay. Find a provider, find somebody that you can work with. Like I said, my sponsor, betterhelp.com. Check them out. BetterHelp.com/Dr. Walker will get you a discounted rate for working with a licensed provider. Do not suffer in silence, okay? We need to work on healing our society. And I've said it 25 years ago. I'll say it tonight. Changing the world is an inside job, people. You have to start from within. Let's all start singing some Michael Jackson. Ready? No, I'm kidding. But yes, it does involve working with the inner world. That is where all the work begins. Everything is a projection from that pain. Do not give up. Do not buy into this idea that you have to stay broken. Okay? If you go to dentists, if you go to cardiologists, if you go to any ist, and you have no shame, there is no shame in going to a psychologist, a counselor, anybody trained. Yeah, right. We are the world. Come on, Sam, hit us with that. We are the world. Anyway, but no, I'm going to start with the man in the mirror. That's the Michael Jackson song. But there's no shame in working with a licensed mental health provider. Do not give into this idea that you have to stay in pain. Okay? You don't. Okay? All right, people. Well, thanks for logging on. Thanks for joining me live. I appreciate all the support. And I will try to get back on Thursday night, depending on just the flow of the day. But if you have an idea for a show or a topic you'd like me to address, please feel free to email me. This is my website. You can go directly there and you can send me an email or shoot me a message or leave me a voicemail. And I do try to respond to people when they call. Unfortunately, due to the volume of people that I do see, I can't always take on new patients. I'm very blessed that our practice is just, very blessed that we have people that are looking at healing. So I can't always return phone calls specific to getting appointments. But if you have an idea for a show or a topic, hit me up and let me know. Okay. All right, guys, have a good night. And again, I'll do my best again on Thursday night and I'll see you then.